effects on it. Gotta get rumble to where it actually kicks in. It drives me nuts. See if it does it this time. Nope. Unmute rumble so I can test YouTube.
Okay.
It's coming through there.
Just,
Oh,
I don't know.
Yeah, there we go. It is weird how Rumble does that. Now it finally is coming through there. Finally kicked in. All right,
Just,
we got it.
I don't know.
It's all good. So we've got the stream set up. So whenever everybody decides to come in, Mark might come in, but I don't know. He's a chicken. He might.
Yeah, he said he would be here. He says, I'll be with you in a couple of minutes.
He's a chicken though. He knows I'm going to be talking about the Tories.
I see.
This is where I'm going to hit it real hard on those Englishmen. I'm just going to. I'm going to get them good.
Okay, Roger, if you wish.
Okay.
As you wish.
I think I am going to pull up that and so that I can read what a Tory is.
Okay.
So that I can educate Mark to how.
Right, and me.
Well, Mark especially though, so he understands how horrible the English are.
Don't be awful. Oh dear, are we going to have to develop an awful American segment too?
Well, they
balance everything out.
They badmouth.
You Americans have destroyed everything. You've bombed every single country in the world. You've never been at peace.
That's what
All
I'm saying.
you ever do is kill other people. Why do you hate us?
This is the whole reason why I gotta do this, because like.
Oh, I see. Really? This is poke until the bear bites. Is that what it is?
It's gotta be something like that.
Oh,
Tory is even.
What about?
Wow, the Texas Revolution is even got the mention for Tory. I did not realize that. That is cool. Yeah. The Tory political font. Okay, that's not good. That's not the one I need. Maybe it was the Whigs. No, here it is. The word Tory originates from an Irish term
Mm-hmm.
that was phonetically anglicized.
Mm-hmm.
Several Irish words have been suggested as the etymological root for the word Tory. Boy, you wait till he gets in here. I'm gonna start the show, and I'm gonna.
But he already knows that the Irish hate him. That's not going to be news for him. He lives there.
That's why I always use the Irish as an example. So. He's been listening in.
No, I've only just joined.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to start a new course, and I'm going to name it Medworthy's Organisational and Communication Workshop.
There you go.
Okay, I'm in. When does it start?
I don't know. I've yet to create the lesson plan.
It'll be rather a long lesson plan too. Trust me.
Yeah, it will be. Oh, Jesus.
Can it start with get out of bed? Make a cup of coffee.
It can.
Touch the snake.
No.
Can't do it.
Okay, that's very depends on how you want to take that euphemism.
Sorry, it's talking about doing things that you're scared of. You know, when you do the therapy where you slowly get used to doing things by doing them in very small chunks. until you can do something.
No, just so you know, we got the talking points in this chat too. So if you open up the side chat, you'll have it right there next to it.
I can see it on mine's chapter saying I so.
Oh, you got mine's open still. Okay.
Yeah, I've got on multiple windows or multiple screens, isn't it?
Figured. I don't know if Otto's gonna show up or not. He said he had to work and everything, so we'll give it a little while. Usually we've been starting like at 5:30 or so. So.
All right.
Okay. But please try and structure your organisational
Oh, I did.
things out.
I did it on time, dude. I got it all set up. It was ready to go like 5 minutes before 5. Everything was hooked up.
Yeah, I was here.
Give us half an hour notice at least, minimum half an hour.
A half an hour. Oh, you
But
need
we
a
always
notice.
do it.
You need a notice. Okay, so
I
Okay,
didn't
a notice.
didn't even realise the time until it was until I messaged you just then.
Oh wow. I got some good tidbits now. Tories. There's some good stuff on there about what the Irish and the Scotsmen used to call them before the word Tory was actually used as a political term.
Whigs. I think you spelled Whigs. I thought Whigs was as in air, W-I-D.
I freaking just did it off of what I seen on the wiki. So.
I think it's Whigs.
And don't get me wrong, Wikipedia misspells like their punctuation sucks like you wouldn't believe either.
Well, it's because it's user-led, it's not.
Or not their.
Oh no, it is. It's
their
W-H-I-G. Yes, you're right. I was just thinking. Yeah. Just me.
But I got some stuff pulled up for like the term before it became a political party. Like the Irish and the Scottish used to have a term for it. So I figured I would pull that up. At first I wasn't going to do it, but Bob Dub said I should do it just to freaking grind it in on you because you're an Englishman and stuff. She said it would be cool if we did that.
So, Mark, that's not the truth. Mark, I did not say that.
Okay. I know he's been doing this all day. Also, it gives background context for the users, for the viewers.
So you want me to tell them to let you, or you want to do like at the beginning of the show?
No, I'll let you.
Stuff?
I'll let you.
You want me to do it?
Yeah. Well, you are suggesting that.
Yeah, I know. When I start, I welcome you and I welcome Bob Dub, and then I'll tell them what shows you guys have. Stuff like that.
Yeah, just informal. Yeah. Or you could leave it to the end.
Yeah,
or you could reiterate it at the end.
That's what I usually do. Is I say,
Yeah,
I'll let you guys make a plug at the end. So.
Both at the beginning and at the end, just to sort of reiterate.
I can say your names and where your shows are in my words at the beginning, and then at the end I could let you guys give yourself a plug, like I usually do, and then we'll have both of it, all of us doing it. So.
Yeah, that's generally I just plug my own channel.
Okay, so here's the thing, man. I really want to start this because I want to do the etymology for the term Tory, dude. It's really cool.
Okay.
And I found out some pretty cool stuff about the Tories too, about the Tories and the Whigs. So I want to get that out there and talk about it. So. Right.
Okay.
So let me do the countdown and hit record. 3, 2, 1, now. Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Roger's Real-Time Talk Show event. This is Roger Hanson, and today I am joined by Bob Dub and Mark Edworthy. Now, Bob Dub has a channel on Rumble that I know of. It's called Little Baby Kangaroos. Isn't that right, Bob Dub?
Tiny baby kangaroo.
Tiny Baby Kangaroos. You can check her out on Rumble. She also has a channel on YouTube. I believe that one's called Bob Dub as well. I'm not positive. Isn't it, Bob Dub?
That one isn't active at the moment.
Oh,
So there's only Tiny Baby Kangaroo on Rumble at the moment.
okay, so she has got a YouTube, but it's not active at the moment. Now, Mark Edworthy is on minds.com. He goes by Medworthy, and he also goes by Mark Edworthy if you're on Minds Chat. So check him out. He's on are you on YouTube by any chance?
No, well, I've got a channel, but it only contains one video that you provided. I needed a reference search for something else, but no, not really.
Alright, so we have those two that are covered. Now, for me, you can find me on Rumble for under Live with Roger Hanson, and on YouTube I have 5 or 6 different channels. This is going on my channel called The Praetorian, so you can find this stream and all the other ones on The Praetorian. Now on Odyssey, I'm also on there. I believe I go by my name on there too, Roger Hanson. So you can check me out on Odyssey, Rumble, and what else? YouTube. Yeah, okay. And besides that, I'm also on Minds Chat, and all of us are on Minds Chat if you want to get in touch with any of us. We've started using Skype too. You can find us on Skype with Roger's Realtime Talkshow event, Live with Roger Hanson, and there's a few other ones. We've started using Skype more. I keep forgetting to mention that in the streams I've been doing, so I figured I would do it. So does that sound good to you guys? Did I miss anything?
That's okay, that's fine.
That sounded good. Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah, thank you.
So last week we ended the parts that we were talking about when it came to socialism in England, and this week I didn't think it was going to be as good until I started actually doing the research on the Conservatives, and I found some good stuff. This is going to really hurt Mark bad, because it's just it's going to kick him between the legs. Like,
Maybe.
well, we're going to do it because that's how we do things around here. We're hardcore like that. So what we're starting out is we're starting out on the conservative the conservatives in England. Now, before we get into modern day conservatism, I wanted to dive into classical, or they've got another term. It's classical conservatism is what it usually went by. There's a regular term that they use, so I'm talking about my notes, I should check those. But yeah, I had them on there. Traditional conservatives is what they used to be called, but they're often known as classical, or it's actually usually known as classical conservatives.
Actually, in this country, traditional conservatives more widely used.
Traditional. Well, that's because you guys, I found out you guys are actually the ones who like originally started the whole conservative movement. It's like I had my suspicions, and I finally started finding out that is what happened. So now today, before we dive into any of the actual conservative parties that you guys have and stuff like that. I want to get into their origins, and we're going to be discussing the Tories and the Whigs. Now, before I start reading what I have on the Tories, I want to read a little bit about the etymology from where the word Tory came from and how it originated. Alright, the word Tory originates from an Irish term that was phonetically anglicized. Several Irish words have been suggested as the etymological root for the word Tory. The Irish word torhe or torig, meaning to pursue or to hunt. Or to hunt is suggested as the origin of the term Tory. From the 1500s to the 1600s, the term Tory first emerged to refer to the Irish who were dispossessed of their lands and took to the woods, forming themselves into a band that subsisted of wild animals and goods taken from settlers. So basically it meant they were robbers and thieves. So that's what a Tory is. They're just a bunch of robbers and thieves running around stealing shit, killing animals. After these activities were suppressed, the term lost its original signification with English speakers and was used to describe an outlaw papist or a robber that is noted for outrages and cruelty. Sound familiar?
I'm not going to comment.
The Irish peasant also used the term Tory to refer to an outlaw or a miscreant of any kind until the 19th century. However, because later conservative and anti-revolutionary parties assumed the term Tory, it has been suggested that the word originated from the Irish word tor, or T-O-I-R, meaning to give, grant, and bestow, or turpero, meaning efficacy, bounty, or beneficent, or beneficent. That's bad. That's whatever that is. I think that's just them trying to make it sound better. That's all that is. Like, after a while, they decided to take out the robbers and thieves and stuff and try to come up with another word that makes Tory sound good. Now, by the 1640s, the term was used in the English language to refer to dispossessed Irish Catholics. It was also used to refer to isolated Irish rebels and guerrillas resisting Oliver Cromwell's conquest of Ireland, who were allied with Cavaliers through treaty with the Parliament of Confederate Ireland. It was later used to refer to dispossessed Catholic Irish in Ulster following the Restoration. Tory was also used to refer to a rapparee and later applied to Confederates or Cavaliers in arms. The term Tory first introduced in England by Titus Oates, who used the term to describe individuals from Ireland sent to assassinate him and his supporters. Oates continued to refer to his opponents as Tories until his death. The word entered English politics during the 1680s, emerging as a pejorative term to describe supporters of James II of England during the exclusion crisis. And his hereditary right to inherit the throne despite his Catholic religion. After this, the term Tory began to be used as a colloquial term alongside the word Whig to describe the two major political factions or parties in British politics. Initially, both terms were used in a pejorative manner, although both later became acceptable terms to use in literary speech to describe either political party. The suffix ism was quickly added to both Whig and Tory to make Whiggism and Toryism, meaning the principles and methods of each faction. Okay, so the rest talks about the American Revolution, and that's where we actually got the term right and got it all straightened out. So we don't need to discuss that no more. I just wanted to read the part that made you guys look really horrible, and that was it. What do you think about?
Funny enough, the term Tory is still used as a slang word
Is it?
even now. Yeah.
Talk about it. That's something that I'd love to hear. That's
I
actually
don't know. Still a common word, common phrase that is still being used.
what do they use it as a slang word? Like when they talk and they say Tory, how are they using it? Like,
Depends on context. I've seen certain tabloid papers use it in the past. I've seen mainstream media use it. It's just one of those common things.
is it used in a negative way, like a slang that's bad?
Again, depends on context. Depends on the actual subject matter.
Okay, say it was a subject matter that was negative for Tories. Do they use that quite a bit?
Not as often recently. Just thinking if there's any newspaper headline I can bring up here.
It's interesting. I didn't know they were still doing it that way, because I was always under the impression that you guys liked the Tories. Like they were your heroes and shit.
Well, some people.
And see, I just found out too that, actually, let me go ahead and read out some of the topic that I got here. Okay, English Tories, from the time of the Glorious Revolution up until the Reform Act of 1832 were characterized by strong monarchist tendencies, support for the Church of England, and hostility to radical reform, while the Tory party was an actual organization which held power intermittently throughout the same period. Conservatism began to emerge in the late 18th century. It synthesized modern Whig economic policies and many Tory social values to create a new political philosophy and faction in opposition to the French Revolution. Edward Burke and William Pitt, the younger, led the way in this. Interventionism and strong-armed forces were to prove a hallmark of Toryism under subsequent prime ministers. The word conservative began to be used in place of Tory during the 1830s as Robert Peel's followers began to reinterpret elements of Tory tradition under a banner of support for social reform and free trade. The party was eventually succeeded by the Conservative and Unionist Party, with the term Tory enduring to become an interchangeable phrase with conservatism. Traditionalist conservatism, often known as classical conservatism, is a political and social philosophy that emphasizes the importance of transcendent moral principles manifested through certain positive natural laws to which it is claimed society should adhere. It is one of many different forms of conservatism. Traditional conservatism, as known today, is based on Edmund Burke's political views as well as the views of Joseph de Maistre. Traditionalists value social ties and the preservation of ancestral institutions above what they perceive as excessive individualism. One of the first uses of the phrase conservatism began around 1818 with the monarchist newspaper named Le Conservateur, written by Francois René de Chateaubriand, with the help of Louis de Bonald. Love French words, they're so hard to pronounce. Now, the concept of national culture, custom, convention, and tradition are heavily emphasized in traditionalist conservatism. Theoretical reason is regarded as of secondary importance to practical reason. The state is also viewed as a social endeavor with spiritual and organic characteristics. Traditionalists think that any change spontaneously arises from the community's traditions rather than as a consequence of deliberate, reasoned thought. Leadership, authority, and hierarchy are seen as natural to humans. Traditionalism arose in Europe throughout the 18th century as a reaction to the Enlightenment, as well as the English and French revolutions. Traditionalist conservatism began to establish itself as an intellectual and political force in the mid-20th century. Now, Edmund Burke was an Anglo-Irish Whig statesman and philosopher whose political principles were rooted in moral natural law and the Western heritage. And the Western heritage is one of the first expositors of traditionalist conservatism, although Toryism represented an even earlier, more primitive form of traditionalist conservatism. Burke believed in prescriptive rights, which he considered to be God-given. He argued for what he called ordered liberty, best reflected in the unwritten law of the British constitutional monarchy. He also fought for universal ideas that were supported by institutions such as the church, the family, and the state. He was a fierce critic of the principles behind the French Revolution, and in 1790 his observations on its excesses and radicalism were collected in Reflections of the Revolution in France. In Reflections, Burke called for the constitutional enactment of specific concrete rights and warned that abstract rights could be easily abused to justify tyranny. American social critic and historian Russell Kirk wrote, The Reflections burns with all the wrath and anguish of a prophet who saw the traditions of Christendom and the fabric of civil society dissolved before his eyes. Burke's influence was felt by later intellectuals and authors in both Britain and continental Europe. The English Romantic poets Samuel Taylor Coleridge, Williams Wordsworth, and Robert Southey, Southey, as well as Scottish Romantic author Sir Walter Scott, and the counter-revolutionary writers Francois René de Chateaubriand, Louis de Bonald, and Joseph de Maistre were all affected by his ideas. Burke's legacy was best represented in the United States by the Federalist Party and its leaders, such as President John Adams and Secretary of Treasury Alexander Hamilton. So that is what I came up with when it came to conservatism. And one thing that did stick out to me that we were talking about, and I believe it was Bob that brought this up, but it said that what was it? Down here, I had it right here in my head too. But anyhow, I'll open it up to I did the reading and everything, so if you guys want to make comments, go ahead and make comments. We'll start out with Mark and see what his take on it is, since it's your hometown.
Funnily enough, when you were reading that, to answer your previous question, I was just looking through a few newspaper headlines and found a couple headlines, such as on June 3rd, the BBC released an article called entitled quote Tory gender laws vow and unquote and quote brave will bow, a couple other things like the Telegraph releasing something on June the 12th today, I think, with the headline Tory Andrea Jenkins put photo with Farage on campaign leaflet but no Sunak. So yeah, it is a term that is still being used by newspapers even now.
That's interesting. That is something good to bring up, because I didn't know for sure what that was all about, when I was sitting there looking at it and everything. Now, what I was wanting to find out was there was something in here that stuck out with what we had a conversation. I believe Bob brought it up, but I can't find it at the moment. Another thing that I did want to mention too was how they were against the hostilities to radical reform back then, and whenever that was going on, it was about the English and the French Revolution as well. I'm guessing the American Revolution too. That kind of goes back into what me and you were talking about. Like they were okay with the idea of being under the king and queen, you know what I mean, and serving in a monarchy and stuff like that. Are you still there?
Yeah, I don't know. When it comes to the monarchy, that's more of a British cultural thing more than a political issue.
For me, it was really enlightening to find out, because like the Tories eventually, well, I found out that in a lot of the stuff I was reading too, that the Tories and the Whigs actually freaking they had a problem with them because they were freaking with each other, because the Tories freaking supported the King Charles II, or no, they were against it. One of the two. I think I was just reading it. but I believe they were for King Charles taking the throne.
Mm,
And
I cannot. Yeah, I'm not sure about that one. I have to do some research on that specific point.
yeah, it's like
But it would make sense. It would make sense.
that was something that really tripped me out. So you know what I mean? Because like freaking they were the traditional conservatives were in favor of a monarchy. They had no problems with it. You know what I mean? Like, and they didn't really agree with the revolutions that were taking place. Like, it's weird to me, even with the French Revolution, people say how great that was, and I was like, no, it wasn't. It was a horrible freaking war, man. They were cutting people's heads off. They cut the royals' heads off, and then they went for the dukes, and then they went for everybody who worked for the dukes and royals, you know. And
The glorious revolution wasn't so glorious.
now that one was in England, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, well yeah, same difference. Yeah,
Yeah, I heard there was a lot of killing going on there too. So.
that's just the general nature of revolutions.
hmm So, what's your take on it, Bob Dub?
I think that it's interesting. I think that I remember at school when we were doing the period of this history, this history period, 1600s and 1700s. I remember them talking a lot about Whigs and Tories back then. But I didn't sort of realize that they corresponded so closely to the Republicans and the Democrats. I mean, I suppose, obviously, over time, these words change, but it just seems that there's always these two factions in society, isn't it? That,
Yeah.
Mm.
No, I think what they really relate to when it comes to the Whigs and the Tories would be like the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists. You know what I mean?
oh, really?
hmm
Federalists and the anti-federalists.
Yeah. Which, don't get me wrong, I think the Whigs and the Tories don't have the same values and stuff as what the Federalists and Anti-Federalists did. That you know what I mean? But well, they probably did, but it wasn't the same motives. That
What do you mean, federalist and anti-federalist?
well,
Because
here in the United States, whenever freaking
you,
oh, sorry, are you
sorry, yeah, in my point of view, putting that in a British context, that'd be for
look?
devolution, all those for a single union.
Well, the Federalists were the ones who um, believed in a centralized government, where the Anti-Federalists didn't believe in a centralized government, and the Anti-Federalists were the ones who I told you before that walked out of the Congression or the Constitutional Convention because they wouldn't sign it until we got the Bill of Rights here in the United States.
Yeah, yeah, like I said, the union or a devolution or a singular union. This sort of goes back to Tony Blair's idea of devolution, which has never worked out. Now we've got the Scottish National Party in Scotland, and we've got and with I can't remember what they called in Wales. But in effect, what's happened is through devolution, you've just created new separate centralized parties.
hmm Well, for me, I think that it really does reflect on what you were saying, Bob Dub, too, when I think about it, because, like, right here it says it conservatism in England at that time period, the Whig, it synthesized moderate Whig economics, economic policies and many Tory social values. So yeah, that would make sense to me. Where it would be more in the lines of the Democrat and Republicans, because like the Republicans are the conservatives, but the Democrats seem to have more of a freaking social policy kind of thing, and they have social values that they want to put into law and everything. And
I think that the monarchy is an interesting twist. I think that that's something that's sort of beyond Americans' understanding, is how a whole country of people would sort of venerate one person to be there, unelected, born to the role, and the whole country swears allegiance to that one person. I think that's something that American politics doesn't cater for at all.
Just to put in a bit more context, we're talking about the US here rather than America. Because I'm just thinking of Canada as well. Canada is still a Commonwealth country and still swears allegiance to the monarch.
They love the English. They do.
Yes, they're part of the Commonwealth, aren't they? They're part of all of us that didn't fully break away. Well, the Rhodesians did, but now where I am, it's Canada, Australia, New Zealand.
I was
I'm sure there's another one.
I did a load of research on this to clients. Yeah, I think it was something that Mr. Robot stuck in journalist the other day, and I found out there was something like 53 countries in the Commonwealth.
Now,
Right. Yes.
now, Toryism under became part of interventionism and strong armed forces. That was to become the Tories' strong hallmarks. So these weren't really weren't really good guys. They wanted to frickin' be interventionists. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Well, I think that's a really horrible word, I have to say. I don't know that that's an unbiased word. I do think that that was the beginning of colonialism, and that was the beginning of the conquest of the less developed areas of the world.
yeah, they wanted to conquer.
But to call it
find that word
interventionism, it's maybe a modern word looking back on a past society where that thinking didn't exist. Nobody was thinking about intervening in anybody else's life. They were just busy getting along, having their industrial revolution and going off in their boats and finding land and thinking, wow, look at this land, man, gold, wow, look at this, food. I don't think it was interventionism. However, looking back, I can see why people put that word on what happened.
Yeah. What was you saying, Mark, about it being an interesting word?
I'm not just thinking that the word conquest to be an interesting and nowadays a very divisive word.
I mean,
I'm not sure the word that in this context.
Yeah, like interventionists is actually a good word that we should look up and actually get an idea of what they're talking about later on. We can come back to that, and I can read what I find on it in another episode, because that does sound like it would be something. What I'm thinking of is like Bob Dove was talking about, like when they went out and started freaking taking Australia. You know, they discovered Australia, and then they discovered New Zealand, made them into freaking colonies. Matter of fact, Australia was a prison planet, wasn't it? Like you guys
Mm,
sent your
okay.
prisoners over there.
Yeah.
They sure did.
Just
Here's a desert. Let's send the criminals there.
yeah.
You see, I grew up in a colony. I grew up in a British colony.
Hmm.
And there was, okay, and I know that they had declared independence from Britain, so the British didn't actually like consider them to be a colony anymore. But the people of the country were British people off the streets of Britain, English
Hmm.
streets.
Wasn't
And we
wasn't
didn't,
it?
we weren't
Oh,
trying to mess up anybody's culture or intervene in anything. We were just like, oh, look, here's a place, let's build a house. Oh, look, here's a guy who wants a job, let's give him a job. There wasn't some big they behind the movement. It was just us living our lives.
Hmm.
I was going to say, wasn't it about 15, 20 years ago? No, yeah, about 15 years ago that even New Zealand or Australia had a vote on at least a soft vote on remaining in the U or remaining in the Commonwealth, and the majority voted for.
I believe they did that in all of them. Even Canada did that at one point. They let all of
Yeah,
the well, what do they call them? You guys, we call them states. You guys, they have districts or something.
Canada,
Provinces, yeah.
provinces, yeah.
All of their provinces were able to vote and decide if they wanted to stay with each other or not. So I think it was, and I think for me personally, I believe that was just trying to show off because, like,
Yeah, it was a PR stunt, that, like I said, a soft vote.
because
A vote that mentioned, I think, that mentioned, I think.
well, it was a political move because, like, here in the United States, it was like I said before previously, like, our states aren't allowed to frickin' secede from the Union. It's an automatic act of war against that state, you see, and that was after the Revolution or the Civil War between the North and the South, and that's why I say the Emancipation Declaration is a double-edged sword. It gave freedom to slaves, but at the same time, it locked every state into the Union, where if they tried to break away from the Union, it would be an act of war. So.
This is the problem with government.
Hmm.
Government comes with a lot of upsides, but it also comes with these little problems like, if you disagree with us, we will kill you. Do you understand?
We were tent to kill you.
Okay.
Not
Yes, well,
necessarily.
they
Yeah.
believe they can. They, in their minds, they can.
Okay, now just so we can do this up and everything, I'm going to turn it over to Mark and let Mark come up with a 2-minute freaking talking point. Anything you want to talk about. You can even go further with anything that we've discussed here.
I can't think of anything. It puts it on the spot like this. Look up them carry on, and if they come up with anything afterwards,
Okay. You want to do it, Bob Dub?
That's so unfair. I don't have anything.
Well,
I do think that it's very interesting that the Irish named the British Conservative Party. Not just the Irish Catholics named the British Anglicans with a slur, and the slur stuck. And I think that's interesting in New Zealand too, is that white people here, it's very contentious about how to talk about race in this country. And when the white people came here, they were called white ghosts, Pakeha. But Pakeha has been used as this word that means those people that we really hate, that came to our land and screwed everything up. And so there are these sort of generational undertones of resentment towards the white settlers here. or the British settlers here. Although the French settlers are hated even more than the British are, so it's difficult. But I think that it's really interesting for me listening to what you say, Mark, and these things about the Tories and the origination of these terms and the parties, to see how similar what happens in the British Isles and what happens in the New Zealand Isles. These similar sort of developments of political struggling between people who have such different points of view. Like so much of what happens in England, I think, well, shall we say Britain, is typified by the struggle between Catholicism and Anglicanism.
I think we're seeing that sort of point of view played out throughout the world, or throughout the Western world, in the last 20, 30 odd years. I mean, the sort of far left and far right arguments. Also, the usage of those named terms, maybe Tory, maybe White Ghost, maybe far right or far left. It's a form of, could be argued as being a form of dehumanization, dehumanizing your opponents. And when you get to that sort of stage, well, history has demonstrated the severity of that sort of thing.
Well, that's a huge thing that I learned growing up during a civil war, is that I learned about the sanctity of life. My mother wouldn't allow us to take sides. My mother said, all life is sacred. We should not be killing each other. And she went out of her way to send us to schools that had children of all races in them, not just sort of whites only, racially segregated schools. So she taught us that all life was sacred. And by going to this inclusive school, which was run by the church, I learned that in order for us to kill each other, we have to dehumanize each other, because our innate respect for human life is so huge that to trick us into being able to kill each other, we have to say this person is less worthy, this person is less than human, this person, this culture doesn't deserve to be. So as soon as you get that brainwashing going, and that feeling of one person is more worthy than another person, then you get this ability to end that life. Whereas when you grow up with the opposite idea, that all people should be sacred, all people should have the equal right to their religion, opinion, whatever.
Yeah. Now, when you were talking about that, that made me come on to this part right here. It's the Conservatives began to be used in place of the Tory during the 1830s as Robert Peel's followers began to reinterpret elements of the Tory tradition under a banner of support for social reform and free trade. So at some point before that, the Tories didn't believe in social reform and free trade. And that's probably where these companies came from that the British had. Like here in the United States, if you wanted to colonize the United States, you had to use their, what was that company called? It was literally a company, and they sent companies out to Australia and New Zealand as well. You know, and they didn't believe in free trade. You dealt and you traded through these companies.
Oh yeah, the obvious one as far as Britain's concerned would be the West Indies company.
Exactly, that's the big one. Now I don't know if the West Indies was the one that sent our pilgrims out here. See, we had
No.
pilgrims.
Yeah, I know because as far as I am aware, the West Indies Company was mainly Asia and the Caribbean.
Yeah. You know, well, the Caribbeans is right there, though. I mean,
Well,
it's
there
like,
was the East Indies
Oh
Company
yeah,
too, you see.
yeah.
East Indies, yeah, East Indies, West Indies, yeah. Mm.
And then right here where social reforms. Now, I don't I don't feed into that hogwash because I read freaking Mark Twain and shit, or not Mark. Wasn't it Mark Twain? Not Mark Twain. What's his name? Little dude. He's like, I want seconds. Oliver Twist.
Okay.
Oh, Dickens.
Yeah,
Dickens,
Dickens.
yeah.
Charles Dickens.
Dickens was real big on that. Like what year was it that he wrote freaking those? Like in the late 1800s.
Yeah, 19th century.
So they were running pretty hard and everything when it come to freaking mistreating people and stuff like that. Even during that time period, this was supposed to be like during the 1830s. So
Mm.
I mean, they,
Well, I think this is one of the very sad things that you have about a hierarchy, is that it's very, very difficult to operate morally in a hierarchy because you have to step back from what's driving you to the top of the hierarchy, and you have to look down at what's beneath you, which is where you're coming from. I remember talking to somebody once about it in New Zealand and saying it's just so amazing in New Zealand that nobody's trying to get to the top. Everybody's trying to make a homogenous society. Where we came from, if you dropped out of your job, if you had a sick day from your job, there were 6 million people behind you lining up for that job. There was competition because there was competition for resources, there was competition for money, for jobs, for everything. It's a completely different attitude within the population when people are not striving to get to the top of the hierarchy. Don't know where I was going with that thought.
Something to think about when you were talking about Dickens. It was only, 15 years-ish after the Napoleonic Wars. And before the Napoleonic Wars, there was a big agricultural industry. Due to inventions on a different viewpoints. After Napoleonic Wars, more, and there was a big cultural shift due to the Industrial Revolution, really.
Yeah.
So,
Well, right down below, it does make sense that you said that because it said that the party was eventually succeeded by the Conservative and the Unionist Party. So this would probably be like the freaking beginnings of what would eventually become the socialist parties and stuff that we were talking about, and the anarchists and all of that. That would have been the Unionist Party and then the Conservative Party. At least that's the way I'm seeing it as. The term Tory enduring to become an interchangeable phrase with conservative. So, so they were
demonstrated with those newspaper headlines there.
Now, how old are those newspaper clips that you have?
Like I said, they are within the last couple of days. June the 3rd, June the 12th, so that's what, yesterday as far as I'm concerned now.
So you're getting invaded by a bunch of freaking progressives. Those progressives are bad mouthing you and calling you Tories.
Granted, one of the articles came from the Guardian, and the other one came, and another one came from the BBC. So progressive there. That's the other one came around Telegraph. Isn't Telegraph more right-leaning
I don't know.
traditionally?
Telegraph. No, I know the Guardian is supposed to be somewhat conservative, aren't they?
No, it's extremely left.
Is
It's
it?
extremely socialist, yeah.
I did not know that. I've heard
Guardian
of.
is extremely left.
I thought they were like Mormons and stuff. At least that's what I was under the impression they were Mormon
The dark
conservatives.
You know,
socialist.
my brother lives in London, and I'm sure that he only refers to the Conservative Party as the Tories. Just trying to rack my brains to think if I've ever heard him ever say any formal name, or if he just sort of uses Tory in his normal everyday language just to refer to the Conservatives.
Could be.
Conservative thought.
Well, I was
Still
thrown.
common word.
I was thrown off when freaking Mark told me that their conservative party is actually called the Conservative Party.
Yeah, it's amazing how English use the English language.
Yeah,
Indeed.
that blew me out of the water. I'm like, hold on, it's
That was our word, dude. We came up with it. Conservative. We thought we were ahead of the pack.
yeah. I think you can hear it in the previous episode we had on it. I actually stopped him in the middle of this conversation. I was like, hold on, dude, you're moving too fast. Let me get this straight. You know what I mean? I was like, are you telling me you have a conservative party called the Conservatives Party? You had to tell me again. It's just amazing. I cannot believe it.
Why, Roger? Why can't you believe it? What is? I mean, to me, it seems sensible.
Well, it does seem sensible in a sensible world, but look at all the conservative parties around the world. You know, I mean, England is the only freaking place I know of where their political party that's conservative is actually called the Conservative Party,
Mm.
and that's pretty interesting.
Mm.
Now, if you know of another place where their political party is conservative and has the same name, then tell me, because I don't know. I mean, that's pretty interesting.
I would have to do some research on that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so another thing I thought of here was the philosophy that emphasizes, hold up. Traditionalist conservatism, often known as classical conservatism, is a political and a philosophy that emphasizes the importance of transcendent moral principles manifested through certain posited natural laws to which it is claimed society should adhere. Now, this is the part that reminds me of what Bob Dub and us have been talking about. It is one of many different forms of conservatism. Traditionalist conservatism, as known today, is based on it. Well, no, hold up. I'm not going to get into that. What it
You're
based
talking about the nurture nature thing, the John Locke, Adam Smith argument point.
Well, what it is the concept of nation, culture, custom, convention, and tradition are heavily emphasized in traditionalist conservatism, and then theoretical reason is regarded as of secondary importance to practical reason. The state is also viewed as a social endeavor with spiritual and organic characteristics. And then it goes on to say traditionalists think that any change spontaneously arises from the community's traditions rather than as a consequence of deliberate reasoned thought. Now, that makes me think of some of the stuff Bob Dub talks about, so I wanted to bring that up to you, Bob Dub, and see what you think about that part.
I thought that was really interesting. I noticed it when I was reading through. that this idea, and I've thought of that in some of the discussions that we've had when we've talked about capitalism. You know, it was, we were these monkeys living in caves, and we did our best, and we did stuff, and we ended up here. I don't think that anybody ever sat down, like sort of in like 1400, and said, right, let's develop capitalism. It's going to go like this and like that, and then we're going to have this, and we're going. So yeah, I do tend to believe that what we have now is just the next level of human experimentation of how we're going to do this. And it's sad to me that we make so many mistakes. I don't like this idea of practical reason is theoretical reason is regarded as of secondary importance to practical reason, because it seems to me that practical reason is leading to the death of hundreds and millions of people, whereas theoretical reason, where we say, okay, look, this is what we've done, these are the trends in human development, let's put this all into an AI and let's try to project into the future, jump over all these millions of years of us killing each other, and get to the place where we actually can interact. Because I don't know if I'm just an idealist, but I do really believe that there is a formula for people to interact clearly and concisely and fairly with each other, so that we can run our communities and our societies. Yeah, I think that's
talking about the ideal sticking it and sticking these theories into AI and getting artificial intelligence to talk about to decide this. A couple of years ago, closed shop in one of the I can't remember what meeting it was, Death Force or something. Had a discussion about the concept of removing democracy and allowing artificial intelligence, or what he claimed artificial intelligence is, to make all the decisions for us. Therefore, we are only slaves to artificial intelligence. We're only slaves to a machine. Individual rights, individualism is removed.
Yes. I don't think that they are intelligent in any way. I can't bear it that we call it artificial intelligence. I think it's one of the silliest names that anybody's ever come up with. What they seem to be able to do really well is to predict the next word in a sentence. They also seem to be able to predict the next iteration of a picture. So they're really, really good at making predictive algorithms. So what we could do is put our history in and ask it to extrapolate along the line of our development and try and predict the next thing that we'll do and the next thing that we'll do and the next thing that we'll do. And then look at that, and then as a community, as a body, as a race, as the human race, try to decide if we want to go down that route, because it's just predictive. And if you put the same input into one of these large language models over and over, 4 or 5 times, every single time they'll come up with a different set of answers, a similar message, but a different set of words that's generated around that. So it's not set in stone, it's just a tool, but it's an opportunity to think about how we could use this tool in order to bring better harmony between the warring factions of our species. Idealism again, is it?
It's all idealism, though. Everything started out as an idea. You know, you got if you stop talking about ideas and freaking what you think would work, then who else is going to stop talking about it? You know what I mean? People were talking about ideas which created the United States and created England and created France. You know, Joan of Arc freaking wanted to unite France into a single freaking nation, and guess what? She did it.
Yeah, she did, and she paid the price for it.
Yeah, that's right. Now, the one thing that I had an issue here with was the freaking these conservatives. They believed that they thought that leadership, authority, and hierarchy are seen as natural to humans. Now, right there, it's not that I disagree with that statement. It's just that look at some of the leaders that freaking are produced naturally because of hierarchy, you know, because of natural or produced naturally. You know what I mean? Like it goes back to what you guys were just talking about freaking having, you know, you sit down and say, look, this is what happened. Let's try to make it better. Well, look at what happens if it happens naturally. You know, all of a sudden you get like what we were talking about with Otto last week or the week before about warlords in countries that are freaking starving freaking the poor people and hopping the kids up on drugs so that they'll carry a gun around for them and kill for them. You know,
Yes.
that's the natural process of hierarchy if you go that route, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Where people who shouldn't have power end up getting power.
Yes.
And it also takes me back to like, and I've heard you guys mention this stuff too about kings and how they originally started out. You know, I've tried to do a lot of research into English history, and the truth is there really isn't much left when it comes to text about how freaking the history of Britain was, because back then a lot of that was lost, you know, and when I hear that, what I'm hearing is a cleaned up version of how kingship actually started, you know.
Oh yes. Oh yes. I think a lot of it is just left. I don't think that there are many great stories left about it. There are a few. A lot of it, I think, is just left in our language, in our heritage, in our sort of cultural tradition, in our way of talking about ourselves. That belief that we are destined to be the best that we can,
Well,
and we are destined to rise to the top.
see, you're talking about the English right there. That's
Yes.
all they are. They got to be number one. I mean,
Yes,
look at Mark.
that's why God sent us here to earth.
Look at
Be
Mark,
number
dude.
one.
He
I
looks,
see.
he looks like a Chippendales dancer.
Roger.
According to Tan, he does. Dan said
I think
he'd
he
pay.
looks like a businessman.
Dan said he'd pay freaking good money to watch him strip.
Oh, you boys, you are so terrible.
But yeah, I mean, on a serious note though, I mean, that's the English to a T. You know what I mean? It's like they had to be the best at everything, even
That's
like
right.
even their Secret Service. You know, everybody watches 007 and think that it's real, but it's not. I mean, like, you know, what is it, MK5?
MI5.
MI5, yeah, MI5. MI5, I believe, isn't that what they're up to now?
Can
MI6.
never remember.
MI6.
Yeah, I can never remember which one's the international one, which one's the national.
Now they got 6 of them.
Yeah.
I
You know
don't
what
know.
I mean? It's like freaking they got one on top of the other. I mean, heck, we've got the CIA, and that's it. Or we got NCIS too, but in the
Yeah, and
SIS.
and you've got the FBI.
Well, they're all here in the United States. The FBI is the United States. Now, we do have the Secret Service in the NCIS.
Yeah, but that's just just a common name for everything, isn't it?
Well, they do all the stuff.
MI5 is the domestic counterintelligence, and MI6 is our international counterintelligence.
This one here says that the CIA is equivalent to the MI6 and
Yeah,
the FBI is equivalent to MI5.
Yeah.
My goodness.
And the national security, oh no, I can't go there. My text cuts off. I'm just on headlines.
That would probably be Homeland Security now.
Yeah. You're brought around by George Bush Jr. During just at the same time as the Twin Towers incident.
Yep.
Mm.
No, you got to behave. We can't be going into no conspiracy theories right now. We can talk about that later on.
That's factual, isn't it?
I know.
That's been well documented.
I know it is. Troublemaker. Freaking, but yeah, he was. As a matter of fact, he was in a classroom reading storybooks to children when he first got the message of it. They have video of it on the news. It was weird.
A few times.
It was weird. Now, the thing. Do you guys know anything when it comes to this guy though? What was his Peel?
So, rings a bell, but not off the top of my head.
Because he was, him and his followers apparently were the ones who actually changed the Tories into where they were into free trade and I guess social issues, as they referred to it as. But that's still up to debate for me on that one, because like I remember, like you guys had debtor's prison all the way up until the early 1900s, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm not sure when the last debtors.
You know, like you guys, I don't see there being much for social issues being taken care of, you know. But
the this was changed in 1869 for the Debtors Act.
yeah, so I guess so. That would actually make sense. That's probably what they ended. Whenever, because these guys were supposed to have started becoming the Conservative Party right around 1825, isn't that what it said? Right around in that time period. So that might have been when they started freaking getting rid of debtor's prison. And I wonder about the orphanages.
Sorry, what year did you say?
I believe they said it was 1825.
Okay. Yeah.
Right around 1825, whenever they were, 18. On the first uses of the phrase conservative began around 1818 with a monarchist. That was the freaking just phrase coming up was 1818, and then scrolling up and down on this chat to try to find it. It was right around. Yeah, go ahead.
Actually, when the UK Parliament started, it's interesting to tidbits on this one. Debtors Relief Act. Parliament passed Act every 2 years for the relief of imprisoned debtors. In the late 18th century, for instance, acts were passed in 1778, 1781, 1794, 95, and 97. There was reforms going on from 16th century
all the way up. No,
Yeah.
I found the day
1869.
too. It was the 1830s when conservative began to be used in place of the Tories. It was in the
Mhm.
1830s. So you say
Mm.
people are having a hard time hearing you. Try moving closer to your mic. Can you hear me?
What, me? Or you?
Me,
You.
probably me.
Uh,
Yeah,
I hear you guys quite clearly. That's interesting.
yeah.
no, I hear both of you perfectly fine. It's just
Hmm.
Skype's trying to tell me otherwise. So
Okay.
now,
Oh, Skype. Oh, I thought that was maybe
Okay,
feedback off
yeah. Yeah.
Rumble or something. Oh, okay.
I those are some of the things that I did want to talk about, like in natural laws. Now we discussed natural law last season, me and you, Mark. Now,
Mm.
do you think that that's probably where a lot of these natural laws that people practice today are coming from?
Like I said before, it goes all the way back to the nurture nature argument, um, the Enlightenment argument.
Yeah. Well, the Enlightenment. I mean, for me, I don't really like see the connection between Age of Enlightenment and nurture versus nature. Like,
Well, the John Locke, Adam Smith, and that sort of
now,
those sort of points.
I see a certain point of liberalism, the classical liberalism, like me and you said, we need to do a topic on when it comes to John Locke. You know what I mean? Because like
Mm.
he was actually probably him and what was it,
Adam Smith,
John Racuse.
yeah, the French being, yeah, and there's a few other names as well.
They were all involved in that, and I mean that's where the whole traditional or classical liberalism came from, in my opinion.
Yeah, this goes back further. You could argue that this is related to the Lutheran movement and the changing of the Bible from Latin to English and Henry VIII and Protestant reforms.
Now, statutes too is another thing. Like whenever we were going through and talking about statutes, like a lot of these statutes go all the way back to Anglo European freaking traditions. Like a lot of them come from freaking old Viking laws and shit, and Roman laws and like stuff like that. You know, so that's something that I think of when I hear about this too, because they're talking about like their ancestral values and stuff of that nature. You know, that really stuck out to me on that one. Because that's really where a lot of these statutes come from, and you guys have statutes too. You know, it's where they just pass laws that frickin' don't get voted on. So.
There's still means. I suppose of law sort of thing.
Now on here, the thing that at the bottom that got me was when they talked about in the United States, Burke's legacy was best represented in the United States by the Federalist Party and its leaders, such as President John Adams and Secretary of Treasury Alex Hamilton. And that's the reason why I don't like them too, is because I thought the Federalists were bastards.
Mm.
Do you want to elaborate on that?
You want me to elaborate on that?
Mhm.
Feel free to.
Don't need to. Okay.
Okay.
just those. like everybody's so big on frickin' the Constitution, and they're so big on the federal government. And like you've heard me say frickin' things that were against socialism, okay? And I do agree with a constitutional government, but there's only one reason, okay? And that reason is we really don't have anything better. You know what I mean? I mean, there's really no form of government that's better than a constitutional law.
No, I think there is.
I doubt it.
I just think that we haven't worked it out yet.
That's what I'm saying. We haven't found
What
it.
did Winston
Yes.
Churchill say? All democracy is the best form of government out of all the worst sorts of forms.
Yeah.
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 And it's and my whole point is this, though: if you read the Constitution and you honestly hear it for what it's saying, it does not freaking protect the individual whatsoever.
Yeah,
No. No protections whatsoever.
no.
And everybody.
Because I mean, it's got to here where it is. I mean, it started off really great, but now it's here.
Mhm.
So there's a flaw.
And
Something's gone wrong.
it's just like here in this traditional conservative beliefs. These guys they abhorred individualism. They're just like the socialists. They do not like individualism, individual rights, any of that, you know. But like I said, the constitutional governments are the best that we do have, and I don't agree with it, you know. But the thing and like even with the Bill of Rights, okay, like I can understand their arguments here in the United States for the Federalists why they didn't want to have Bill of Rights, because like Bill of Rights were what kings and queens gave their subjects. That was rights that they had. And it protected them when they went to foreign countries and everything, because they had their Bill of Rights, which their country protected them with. And when the anti-federalists wanted a Bill of Rights put up against them, that's the first thing they thought. You know what I mean? They're like, no, because in the Constitution it says that we have our rights are God-given, and no man can ever take those rights away from us.
Yeah.
Which means that it doesn't matter, as long as I don't break the law and I know what right and wrong is, I'm free. No other man on the planet can tell me what to do or how to do it, as long as I don't break the law and I do the right thing.
Exactly.
You know? And they said Bill of Rights, and boom, all of a sudden the Federalists started thinking, oh no, we don't need that. And I think that on that terms they also went to the extremes too now, because now they got all these amendments after the Bill of Rights. There's only 10 amendments that was written, and then they added 6 more. You know? And so I don't agree with that all the way either on that.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, for Constitution though wise, I do agree with it's the best that we have at the moment, because I mean,
I think one of the things that I find is that people seem to be at the moment using language that stops them from thinking. I hear a lot of people saying this is the only way it could work. This is the best way. This is the this. This is the that. This is the as if they put a full stop, and they've now no longer thinking about anything.
Again, this is all about the so-called hallmark for the institutions and concepts, academics. Stop teaching things like critical thinking and having the sort of black and white concept. This has been going on for 50, 60 odd years now, and slowly, but it has increased in speed over the last 20 years.
Hmm. Well, for me personally, I mean, critical thinking is been replaced with critical theory and all that shit. And
Mm.
um, like, critical thinking isn't the same as critical theory. Critical theory is telling you that freaking you have to freaking that's really really highly socialist. You know what I'm saying? Like when you go in, you have to freaking literally you start believing crap that's just not true. You know what I mean? Like they'll start telling you that freaking slavery was all the United States' fault.
Mm.
It was all the United States' fault. You know, we're us poor or us horrible white people here in America freaking are the ones who caused black people to freaking be made into slaves all around the world. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And they want you to stay focused on that because they don't want you to realize that other things were happening in other parts of the world that didn't have anything to do with America.
Well, it's a level of ignorance, isn't it?
Yeah.
If people knew the history of slavery and knew how people behaved to each other through all of time and in all societies, then when somebody said, oh, this person did that there, you would say, oh, really? Yeah, well, that person did that and that person did that, more of the same. So for me, I see it as a lack of general knowledge, which I find I blame on the collapse of the education system.
I do
I'm
too.
sh-
I
yeah,
that's the thing that I was talking about. It's been critical thinking
yeah,
has been replaced with critical theory, you know.
that's right.
And
And they are totally critical theory doesn't work with critical thinking because
it's
No.
not the same
one's
thing.
about you thinking and the other one is about you being told what to think.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which are both relevant and are both important in their place. In their
Guys,
place. You know?
Well,
I mean, you would tell a 7-year-old child how to think. That is appropriate. You would teach
we've
them.
seen that recently. Look at the sort of sexualization.
Oh, yeah, okay, that's horrendous. I mean, I'm saying you tell them how to think properly. Like,
Probably,
I'm not saying
probably
let's
is
bring
a
in.
very bad
Yeah,
word depending
yes,
on who
yes,
you
yes,
are.
yes. Okay, so let me try and express it differently.
well, you know,
It is more appropriate to tell your children how to think, and then once you've given them how to think, then open them up to the amount of subjects about which they could think. But then once you get to what they could think about, you hope that they've reached a level of critical thinking where they can analyze this data that you're now setting before them. But you wouldn't do that to a young child. You wouldn't overwhelm them with data and things that they couldn't deal with.
right.
Yeah, still trying to develop the words for that. I take your point there, Mark.
No,
Yeah, I can see what you mean.
for me, I still like the ass whooping concept. I mean, everybody freaking seems to think that's just horrible, but freaking, you know what? They start acting up. You whoop their ass, dude. Freaking, don't worry about if the state's gonna come in and get you for child abuse. You know what I mean? That kid starts acting up and running his mouth or his or her mouth. You freaking pick up a belt and you whoop their ass. You don't put
Yeah, I
up.
used to agree with that. When I came from a society where people were very, very restrained and careful, and when an ass whooping meant that a child got a small punishment
Well,
delivered in a very specific and careful way, I
see,
agreed with that.
people.
But then when I came here and I started teaching at the low income schools here in New Zealand, and the children used to tell me how when their mom gave them a hiding, it was with the cord, not the cord, the pipe of the vacuum cleaner,
Mhm.
or the leg of a chair. I
Shit,
mean,
dude.
that's not ass whooping. That's not okay. And for my classes to be laughing at me for being shocked at that, ha ha ha, miss, what's wrong with you? That's our culture. I'm like, no, I'm sorry. I'm just not going to go there. I just don't agree with that. There's ass whooping and there's ass whooping.
You know, I mean, and I think that's the thing. A lot of people mix up freaking abuse with getting an ass
Mm,
whooping. You know what I mean? It's
yes.
like freaking all of a sudden we just gotta clump it up just because freaking, oh, we gotta stop that now. You know what?
Mm, mm,
Ever since they stopped freaking disciplining children in schools, the gun shootings have been going up.
that's right.
Every freaking issue that's
Yep.
resulted in school shootings here in the United States started after freaking kids stopped being disciplined. And you take a look at these kids, you'll hear about these shootings, and it was because they had mental illnesses, okay? I'll give them that much, but
Yes.
I guarantee you the first person or one of the first people those kids freaking shot was the same person that freaking bullied them every day that they went to school.
Indeed.
Okay.
Okay, there's a couple of issues here, and I'm going to be a bit controversial here. Mental illness is not necessarily what is deemed to be a mental illness in some cases, or the other issue is the US concept of just hiding kids with drugs made up through food. So, as an example, cereals. There are a lot of chemicals in cereals that in the US that are technically banned or are banned in Europe because of issues like ADHD and other issues and more severe issues. The other argument here is the issue of just being reliant on schools, on their education, on the states to discipline discipline and educate the child, not considering that the parents, the guardians, is a parental and guardian issue, which also plays into the argument of, sadly to say, single parent households, which we've seen a large increase in within the last several decades.
I think that's actually
Yeah.
I think that's actually more of a situation that's been happening longer than just decades, because like
Yeah, but it's been more prevalent.
whenever you look at like what they were talking about with like the conservatives in the topic that I brought in here, like they're talking about traditional values, you know what I'm saying? They're talking about traditional conservative freaking values that concern freaking what was it that like their traditions, everything freaking comes spontaneously and stuff, and then they went on to say that what is it they believed in okay, yeah, it's up here, I can find it later, but
Traditionists think that any change spontaneously arises from the community's traditions
yeah,
rather than as a consequence of deliberate reasoned thought. Is that the one?
yeah. You see, now they believe that frickin' the community should frickin' take care of the problem instead of it being
Mm,
regulated out to
mm,
frickin' you by the state.
mm,
You know, and I've seen firsthand what these frickin' state regulated organizations goes through, because like I've mentioned before with my son and his mom, my ex-girlfriend, okay, it was a joke. I mean, I sat and watched
mm,
this boy frickin' have to go through hell with his drug addict mother, you know, and this state organization that was supposed to help my son doesn't help him or his mother. She didn't get into any kind of drug program, any drug court that they have available. Frickin' she ends up frickin' in jail or wherever she's at now over drug charges. And my son gets taken out of the home only to be placed 2 frickin' houses down so that he can watch from a distance as his mom frickin' kills herself with drugs.
No, it's so wicked.
You know, and all the time this organization is saying that frickin' they're there to frickin' help
Yeah,
families.
no, they're wrong. They're wrong.
Okay.
They've got it wrong. Their heart's in the right place, but they're so wrong.
And they didn't want to frickin' give me custody of them because me and my ex-girlfriend were never married. You see what I mean? So I don't get the same rights as what a frickin' husband does.
And that's wrong too.
I
wanted to-
I was just going to say it's the stable family sort of argument.
Mm-hmm. That's what it is. That's exactly what it is. It's like, in order for you to like, I hear these couples talking about how freaking hard it is for them to be taxed and everything, and they get tax write-offs for having kids and being married. But look at what a freaking single person freaking who has kids and has never been married freaking has to go through. They get taxed more, and they still have to take care of their kids. You see?
Arguably, I'm not sure if your state gets tax relief for families, but arguably that concept of tax relief should aid in
We call it tax write-offs.
supporting. Yeah, whether it's tax relief, tax write-offs, same difference at the end of the day. Yeah, that should actually encourage family units.
Well, even if you just take away the whole freaking fact about a family, okay, just a single person here in the United States, okay, 40% of their freaking money is taken out of their freaking paycheck, dude. As a single person.
You depending on, I'm saying, what the degrees depend on the amount.
On average, a single freaking person, male or female, gets 40% of their taxes taken out of their freaking paychecks. Literally, 40%.
But there is a major economic sort of, I don't know, crisis, the so-called cost of living crisis that's happening at the moment.
They got the crisis. It's called frickin' Social Security, and it's called frickin' income taxes. And that's what the crisis is.
Also, if you want to put it on Social Security, what about all the pensions that civil servants need to live on? A lot of the money of it goes to Africa. That's not.
And you know, I was wondering that too. You know, the big thing that really gets me is like everybody's talking about wanting to tax the rich more. Now, how many rich people actually dip into their freaking Social Security? You know what I mean? If you're able to freaking retire and you're rich and you don't have to worry about it, why would you want your Social Security?
You're talking about the idea of what's the word I'm looking for?
Social Security.
For all sort of a singular sort of Social Security concept where everybody receives a specific amount of Social Security, no matter what their circumstances are.
Yeah, you know, it's just that's the one thing that gets me about
blanket.
Like, how much money is actually being paid out, freaking by the Social Security when it comes to all that? You know what I mean? Like they get all these, they just automatically take the money out of these people's checks. Okay.
But arguably, you pay into the system, and at the end of the day, you receive a percentage of that.
I'm just saying how many people are actually wanting to get their payout. They want, how many of them are actually filing for income taxes? These rich people, how many of them are filing for retirement when they retire? You know, if they don't need it, why would they do it? You know, I
Because
guarantee
it's the
you.
right. Because again, they put in the money in the first place, and it is the
I
right
guarantee you.
to take out the percentage.
I guarantee you, freaking the government is holding on to freaking money that rich people aren't claiming when they retire. I guarantee you they got that
The
money.
state, sorry, the state's not the
Oh,
government,
I'm
not the
sorry, the
government.
state.
Sorry,
I'm sorry, the state.
it's just me.
But you know what I'm talking about.
Mm, mm.
You know what I'm talking about. I guarantee you, there's a lot of money that's circulating there that's not being used, or it is being used, and we don't know what it's being used for. So, you still alive, Bob Dub?
I'm alive. I'm alive. Sorry.
I'm not sure that you don't know what it's being used for, although you can go, it is public money, and therefore you can say, you can find out this information, you can see a percentage of it going to pensions, you can see how much of it's going to, I don't know, filling up potholes in the road, how much is it being used for, I don't know. But
Well,
yeah.
well, we can go ahead and end this, I guess, because Bob Dub said she has to head out to do some shows. She's going to do a show with Auto Excelsior, and then she's going to do something with Do Better, and she has to do something with Tory D. Right? Is that the case, Bob Dub?
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. Busy day today, lining up all the tasks.
Sure.
But it has been a great talk. So interesting. So good to get into some of this stuff. And yeah, and it goes so far. I mean, and it's so interesting how I was just thinking earlier when you were talking about mental illness, Mark, and you were saying, like, what is deemed to be mental illness. It's so great to have these conversations, because this is where you sort of knock those things off, the edges, those rough edges off. One of the things that I'd like to say in closing is that I think that it's so important, the words we choose to discuss these things, because mental illness is the stupidest word ever. It's nothing about mental illness. It's about emotional illnesses.
Mm-hmm.
These are people with big emotional problems. And I was one of those women, Roger, who's like your girlfriend. I didn't go to jail and do hard drugs and stuff, but I listened to the advice of the social system, and it gave unbelievably bad advice.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do think that there is this amazing opportunity that we have to get together and do all these different sorts of explorations and stuff. So I just wanted to thank you very, very much for allowing me to have this opportunity of being here with you guys and being involved in these conversations and trying to find some way that we can go forward responsibly. It's a real great honor to be here with you. So thank you.
So now, before you take off, I'm going to do like we said at the beginning. I'm going to let you give your what do they call that? Where you
Right.
You tell everybody where they can get in touch with you and stuff.
The detailed stuff. Okay. Well, I'm on minds.com. I have a channel there where I post stuff that I do. I post my chat show that I do with Otto, which is called Bobbing Along. I post that on Rumble, and that's sort of a look at the world through Buddhist eyes. I've also been involved with Rush of Waves a little bit, doing a react show to content. How do we react to content on the internet? And I'm quite involved with Satori D, who has got an amazing project where he is working with generative AI to build a sort of interactive website that every time somebody goes to a page on the website, a different answer is generated by the AI. So this ongoing novelty and generation and progression of thought. So those are the projects that I'm involved in. As I say, if anybody does want to talk to me, I'll be on minds.com. So yeah, thank you very much. That's me, Roger.
All right. Now, Mark, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I generally just use minds.com for any social media interactions. So minds.com / Medworthy. My channel is mainly about technology news and principles of computing and interest in sort of technology related sort of stuff.
And you're also a big
Awesome.
help. So if anybody needs help out there and
Yeah.
they need to contact somebody, talk to Medworthy. He can help you out when it
Yeah,
comes to.
I also am the administrator of the Minds user group, and the Minds Community Open Source Initiative group. Yeah, I provide a lot of community-based support for Minds.
Okay. And with that being said, I'm going to end it here. If you guys want to find me, just look at the freaking stream you're on. This is where you can find me, or go and look for me on minds.com too. I go by Roger_Hansen. I've already done the search, so I know you can't find me if you don't use the underscore. So remember to do _Hansen, just so you guys know. And with that,
Or minds.com / Roger_Hansen.
yeah. And with that, we will end the episode. I want to thank everybody for being here and everybody for listening.